this is how you should now be able to share these funds. Section 162 I think sub 4 or 5 up to 6 talked about that the National Assembly will now make a law or an act on how the funds will now be shared. Funds that are into the federal account, how it will now be shared. State, local government, federal government, and local government. So that the same parliament has made an act that says remove 30% from this NNPC, from the oil sector, what we got from the Frontier Exploration Fund, from the NNPC Management Fund, and gas revenue and flare penalties. Remove these funds and put them into special accounts. That is what the National Assembly has made through the PIA. Then you are now coming to make executive order to alter those provisions of the Act. So that is what we are saying. If you have issue with these provisions of this PIA, what you should do is to sponsor an amendment to the PIA, to the Parliament, to amend the PIA, and to make an act or to make an order to amend
so
the
you are
PIA
saying that
Act.
the presidency violated the PIA.
The PIA, the executive order is in violation of the PIA.
Okay, it's in violation of the PIA.
That's the point.
But this morning, the presidency also defended themselves. They said that the PIA is a legislation and that the presidency is being backed by the Constitution, which overpowers, which overrides the PIA, that the PIA is only a legislation. What's your take on
that? That is what I tried to explain in my opening remarks, that you have Nigerian Constitution, 1999. Mm-hmm. You have the Petroleum Industrial Act, which is an act of the Parliament. Mm-hmm. The lawmaking body made that act. You now have the Executive Order 9, which is now being made by Mr. President. Don't forget that the presidency ought to make law. The Parliament ought to make laws. The judiciary ought to interpret laws. The executive execute. So what the president has done now is to make law, and the law he's making is in conflict with the law made by the National Assembly, which is the PIA. So we are saying that instead of the president to make a law or an act that or any order that will run in conflict with an act of the National Assembly, act of the Parliament, sponsor a fresh amendment to the act. Because the presidency is saying that the essence of this is to ensure that you comply with Section 80 of our Constitution, which is very clear. We quite agree with him. Section 80 and Section 162 is clear on how the Federation funds is managed. Quite agree with you. But then you don't have to come and make executive order to correct that anomaly that you have seen in the PIA. Sponsor an amendment to the PIA, to the Parliament to amend those provisions and then remove those bridges that you have so seen.
Well, frankly, let's look at it from another aspect, and that is going to be partly extracted from the statements from the presidency and the president himself while signing the Executive Order 9. He had clearly stated that he was still going to be ensuring that there are some amendments that need to be made to the PIA to align with the provisions of the Executive Order 9. What do you make of that? Because I feel this is where your concerns and the CSO's concerns will be addressed.
The first thing would have been done if you want to build a house. You don't first of all put the roof before putting the foundation. The house will collapse. What the president has done is to put something on nothing. His argument is not rooted in law. And I'm saying that the first thing would have been to sponsor an amendment, which is what he would now do after he has already made this order.
Well, I don't think
he would have first of all sponsored an amendment to the act.
I do not think we are new to the modus operandi of this particular president. I mean, this was also the issues we had during the removal of fuel subsidy. People were of the criticism that, he should have taken steps to address how this is going to affect the people and all of that. But the president that we have currently seems to work more spontaneously. And this decision could also, be mirrored with the kind of decision he made some years back regarding the removal of fuel subsidy. And does it really matter which one is put first?
I will agree with you that the president seems to be acting ultra-virus and unlawfully, and his actions is not rooted in our Constitution. That is what I would rather agree, that his actions is not based on rule of law Otherwise, the first thing would have been to sponsor an amendment to the PIA. And our fears is not even this who manages what. All these funds that are being put, that will now be pumped into the inflation account that will be shared among the federal government, state and local government, how are they used?
Yeah, that's another angle.
So it's not committing an illegality, because you want more funds to be given to the federal government, state and local government areas, and without knowing how these funds are being spent.
Is the
so the first thing would have been
the issue of transparency
to be mindful of the law.
In the room.
You cannot commit an illegality in order to tackle transparency. We are all saying the same thing here. We are not about to attempt or tendency towards transparency. We are saying that you cannot violate the law because you want to be transparent in the management of the nation's funds. If you do the right thing, put the right foundation, what will it take him? What will he have lost if he has sponsored an amendment to the PIA? And then those measures that he now violated through this order will now be amended.
Right, Chuck, aside from violating the law, let's look at the benefits. This law that the executive, how beneficial is it? Because it clearly has good intentions.
Well, we agree that its intentions might be. I use my word guidedly because since the first subsidy removal, we've seen much money being shared among the federal government, state and local government areas. Yet you don't see much in terms of development, in terms of development in states and local government. So I use my word guidedly. Yes, he might have good intentions in mopping funds, right, and checking transparency and all of those and be accountable. But then you don't have to violate the Constitution, which is our grand norm, which is the supreme law, in order for you to be seen to be transparent. Look at it. The PIA. Let's discuss the PIA now. The PIA established in section 240 of the PIA 2021 established 3% from the oil companies operating in the areas, in any oil producing areas, to be put into a trust fund for the development of the host communities, right? How many of these host communities are benefiting from that 3%? So the president, making these orders should also be able to ask, how are the PIA function? We have NDDC that is also made by an act of the parliament, that is also a body to take care of the oil communities, right? How has the NDDC be able to function? How are they function? Where are the development that they have attracted to the areas that are concerned? You also have NNPC. All these are oil, companies, right, that are supposed to be owned by the government. How has the NNPC been run? Where is the annual account of the NNPC? Have you seen how transparent is NNPC? So that is why we agree with him that he can mop up the funds, be transparent, but don't violate our constitution in order to be transparent.
Well, when we look at it broadly, and the issue of accountability, which of course is your purview, I'd like you to look at it from this aspect now. The executive order by the president, and it's already here. It has happened. The order has been given, and it's already in force. So we are now going to be looking at how to ensure that it indeed achieves the goals that have been set out for it. Yes, of course, we know that the president has said he's going to address some issues in the PIA, which of course we do not know which aspects would be captured. It could be the areas that you have spoken about, but we do not know at this time. But now, looking at the mechanisms that you feel the issues of real transparency can be achieved through this Executive Order 9, what do you think are some of those steps that can be put in place so that at the end of the day, we do not have these funds mopped up, as you have rightly put it, and that we still have issues of these funds being mismanaged, and even worse than it were when they had separate accounts for them.
The presidency has put up a committee, right, to look up, to manage this and see how this works out. Even when we are against the fact that he has violated our constitution and the PIA, we hope that at the end of the day, the right thing will be done. It is wrong that we are talking about going to sponsor an amendment to an act of the parliament after you have violated the act. It is very wrong. It is unlawful. I expect that the National Assembly should be able, to call the president to order, because when an act of parliament is violated by the president, their duty is to offer checks and balances. They should challenge the president's action that it is wrong. Send the bill to us. Let us first of all amend before you now begin to implement this. They should put a halt. The parliament should put a halt to the executive bill, to the order 9, until the bill amending the PIA is sent to the parliament to amend those provisions that are in conflict with the constitution, which the president has so cited in the order, before you can now begin to enforce it. Otherwise, you'll be running a system where the president will sleep and wake up tomorrow and say, I hate what is happening in Sokoto. I sponsor this order will now be enforced. What is happening in Delta State, I don't like it. I am bringing this order, and it becomes enforced. And then after which they will now send a bill to go and amend what is the law. I expect that the National Assembly should sit up and call the president to order, do an oversight, resist every attempt for him to flout the law until the right thing is done. Otherwise, it will be setting a very wrong precedent. I
will check on the company also. While they're trying to, address the issue of this, what the presidency is saying that with this decision is going to affect their statutory obligation, the ability to perform their statutory obligation. Do you think it will affect?
That is why
they are just giving reasons, because most times some people are saying that they're just trying to ensure that it doesn't work, so that they continue with that system.
It doesn't work. If the law says all the funds that they were keeping ought to be in the federation account, that is the law. So the issue of it will affect our operations, shouldn't even be. I'm not even looking at the oil companies' claims and the NNPC and the claims. I'm looking at the fact that what the law says is that the NNPC should keep 30% of funds, management fee, and the frontiers and the rest of it should be paid into special account. That's what the PIA said. In fact, the PIA changed the name of NNPC to NNPCL, made it to become a private venture. And so what we are saying here is not about who should benefit or who should not, but it's the fact that we are putting a very wrong precedent. If this thing stands, where the president will make a executive order and be using it to amend an act. President Buhari did it in 2018. Yep, he established the NFIU, National Financial Bureau of the EFCC, to be able to track the funds of local government, where he said all funds of local government should be paid to the local government account straight from the source. The Algon and governors went to court to challenge that order. That if you want to amend our constitution, do so. Don't use the order to amend our constitution. And then the court held that yes, the order of the president is a null and void to the extent of its conflict with the constitution.
But the president
is the order failed flat.
The president is not omnipotent. What about the advisors?
That is the point. The AGF should advise him.
Well, if we're even going to bring up a typical example, not like us to use Algon, because
why are you that? Because those are parties in the suit.
We're going to politicize the whole thing. It is like when we talk about Algon and the issues of paying money directly to local government, you begin to see that when you help them, it's as if
they don't even want it. They don't even want it. I'm telling you what happened. They don't even want it, because the governors as at 2018 quashed the Algon. They went to court challenging the president that he has no right to use an order to amend the constitution, that section 162 says all the funds should be in the joint account. And then the court held that yes, this is what it is. And so the order failed. Right. So if the president, in this case, President Tinubu, wants to amend the PIA or feels that the PIA is in violation of the constitution, let him now sponsor a bill to the parliament, citing those areas that he feels violate the constitution, and then that will now be amended.
Let's bring this closer to the Niger Delta now. Under the PIA, host community development trust funds and entitlement to 3% of operating expenditure from settlers. Let's look at if the Executive Order 9 is tightened, do you see this having any positive ripple effect on what happens within the PIA, the 3%? Do we see the host communities being taken care of more in terms of all of these monies that will be mobbed into the Federation account? What is expected to happen at the end of the day if this is effectively harnessed?
I think the order of the president does not affect the 3% that
the PIA prescribes.
By the PIA prescribed in section 240.
And when he talks about making some adjustments in the PIA, could that also include?
If that comes up, it will bring up fresh agitations in the oil-producing communities. You know, recall before this PIA was even given assent to, there were several issues that came up before it was given assent to it. There were protests in the Niger Delta region and agitations. We led several protests before the president gave assent to it. I think that was President Buhari.